Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tammy Patzer.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Debra Graugnard. She helps people heal their relationships with food and their bodies, including struggles with emotional eating, weight, body image, digestion, and feeling safe and confident in their skin. Debra helps people worldwide to discover the health they want, the joy they deserve, and the love that they are. Her journey began with the incurable diseases of hypoglycemia, fibrocystic disease, ulcerative colitis, which led her on a journey to find healing for the body, mind, heart, and spirit. Debra is a spiritual healing practitioner, teacher, author, and blogger. She holds a Master's of Divinity in Spiritual Healing and Counseling and studied with a Sufi guide and master healer from Jerusalem for 20 years. She has worked with the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism since 1998. She founded the Community for Conscious Living, an online community dedicated to healing the planet through personal transformation and universal harmony. Debra established Joyfully Living Wellness, her private practice, where she works with individuals in private sessions and with groups in online programs, workshops, and retreats. Welcome, Debra.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Well, I'm really interested in talking with you because as I was thinking about your bio, I was thinking about myself so much because emotional eating, things like that. So tell me a little bit more about who you help and what is the big struggle that so many people are facing?
Yes, very good question. So I've been working mostly with people who struggle with their relationship with food and their bodies, and that can show up in the form of, with compulsive eating or emotional eating, or just not sure what to eat to help them to really feel good. A lot of people now have so many problems with digestion, and they just can't quite figure out, which are the foods that their bodies are going to be able to digest and receive, and that are going to help them to actually feel good. And there's so much information out there right now telling you what you should eat, which supplements you should take, whether you need the prebiotics, the probiotics, the enzymes, and all the different things. And the truth is there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to your health. Your body, every body is unique, and the body is incredibly wise. We are these human beings and spirit beings integrated into these physical bodies, and we carry the divine wisdom of spirit and the innate wisdom of the earth combined. And the body has its own path, its own journey, and it carries so much information about what it needs specifically to have everything it needs for you to care for yourself, to be healthy, to live the life you're meant to live here, to fulfill your purpose, to live with love and strength and confidence and joy and beauty. And the struggle is that so many people are looking outside for answers, and to go inside, there's such a cacophony of voices and beliefs and things that get all cluttered in there from all of the imprinting and the things that we take on, that it's hard to know what to listen to. But it's not difficult to learn to listen to the body. You just need to understand how the body speaks, what kind of messages the body holds and from where, how to listen and how to discern the messages so that you know how to use them to get to the highest expression of your truth.
Wow, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about exactly what you were saying, because it seems like we're constantly bombarded either from television, radio, online, Facebook, magazine articles. If you stand in the grocery store and you're in the checkout line, obviously there's 5 to 10 different diets, a different way to lose weight or be healthier every week. So with that in mind, you actually started on your journey to learn how to listen to yourself and to your body. So what happened that led you to the work you're doing today?
Yeah, thank you. So I had an interesting journey. I grew up, my father had a bakery, and I grew up with unlimited access to sweets. And, it was a family business, so I grew up working there, but it's a wonder he made any profit, because I certainly ate a lot of the food. I mean, I could eat a whole box of brownies, a whole pie, I could, oh boy, and the donuts, you name it. And, so I didn't have the healthiest diet growing up. And when I was in college, I was probably one of the few people that actually goes to college and lost weight. But I actually did lose weight when I was in college, but I still didn't have a healthy lifestyle. I was doing every 2-for-1 chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and, and of course I consumed my share of alcoholic beverages during my college years for sure. And in college, I had hypoglycemia and fibrocystic disease, and, just thought that these are things you just live with. You learn how to manage them. With hypoglycemia, if you don't eat for a certain amount of time, you start getting shaky, you get headachy, you get edgy and jumpy, and, and start feeling sick if you don't eat. So, you learn how to manage that. And that's, in a sense, listening to your body. When your body starts hitting that edge, you got to do something. And, and then with fibrocystic disease, it's uncomfortable, but at the time, who knew why? You just kind of deal with it and it'll pass. And then I had, at the very end of my college, my very last semester, I was working in a bank, and I was held gunpoint in a bank robbery. And the gun was a sawed-off shotgun, was actually cocked right in my back, just to the left side a little bit. I can, still pinpoint right that spot where that hit. And after, initially the bank robber got away and everybody was safe, and I was grateful that nobody got hurt. And I was grateful that I was alive. So initially I thought, okay, everything's fine. But then about a month later, I started getting sick, and I started having back spasms. And the back spasms were happening right in that spot where the gun had been. And then, I started having internal problems, internal bleeding, and getting, a lot of severe pain, getting really sick. And eventually I was diagnosed with the ulcerative colitis. Now, when I went to the doctor, they said, okay, some people get it around your age. It's not, it's not an uncommon thing. But once you get it, there's nothing we can do. Once you have it, you have it. And so they prescribed this horrible diet where you have no fiber, no raw vegetables, no fruits, and, you just... no whole wheat bread. You just have white bread and potatoes and things like that. So it's just something that, as a health nutrition kind of person, you would think the opposite of what you would actually prescribe to people, right? And that's what they prescribe. And along with that, you take steroids. And the steroids are there to keep the inflammation down. But, I have to admit, at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in my early 20s here. If I'm going to start taking steroids now and I have to take them for the rest of my life, because this is what they tell you, you take this for the rest of your life, you eat like this for the rest of your life, and when it gets bad enough, we'll just take your colon out. And so that was like, oh my gosh, this, between losing my colon and taking steroids, I knew I was going to be, I was going to have a beard and I was going to have big muscles and all this stuff is what I thought of with steroids. So sheer vanity propelled me to say no and reject the prescription for this disease. And on top of that, I knew that I still had a gun in my back, and that gun was just exploding every other day, and it was causing rupture inside my colon, and it was causing spasms in my back, and I could feel it, and I knew I just had to get that gun out. I knew there had to be a way, and yet I couldn't really find anybody to listen to that story. So that's what set me off on seeking to try to find the truth of what I needed to do in order to get that gun out of my back and to heal my body. And I found some beautiful, incredible answers. I started with healing the body through a process of cleansing that actually honored the needs of the hypoglycemia as it cleansed the body. And in a very short period of time, I was rid of the physical diseases. I was rid of the hypoglycemia, rid of the fibrocystic disease, and rid of the ulcerative colitis. And that's been about 30 years ago, and none of them have returned. Now, I still had to get the gun out of my back, and so that was what led me on the journey for it led me to eventually to find spiritual healing. And I ended up meeting a teacher who was a Sufi master from Jerusalem who taught me about healing in ways that I never even imagined were possible and didn't know existed, and taught me about a life in spirit fully present in physical form that has led to a life that is beyond exquisite.
So the combination of, first you literally changed your diet, and that helped to heal you, but it was the spiritual healing that you really needed to start working on your journey. Is that correct?
That is correct. And along the way, after the physical, and I know a lot of people struggle with this, after the initial physical healing, if you go to like a juicing cleansing protocol to heal the physical body, after the initial healing is past, then you get into your regular life routine again. There are some things that are changed for good because you really learned from that experience. But then there are some deeper patterns that will start to resurface and start to come back to plague you. And they can really trip you up, and you start saying, okay, well, my body's feeling better. And you start getting into some of the old patterns that are not healthy for your body. And you really don't want to be living that way again, but you just can't quite help it because these patterns are so ingrained into you from early ages, and they become a part of your subconscious behavior patterns. So, then there's that stuff that was healed at the deeper levels along the healing journey.
So what would you say the number one thing is that keeps people from healing?
I think it is exactly that. We carry so much patterning in our bodies, and it lives in the subconscious that keep us stuck in the old ways. If if really taking care of our bodies and our minds and our hearts and our spirits was so easy, we would all be doing it right now, because there's so much information out there about what we should do. And yet, how many times can you hear it and hear it and hear it and still get tripped up on the things that you really, want to be changing in your life? So what really, I think it's the number one thing, if I had to say a number one, is we have some belief patterns, right? We say we believe that our past is what makes us who we are. And therefore, okay, well, I'm going to look to my past to tell me who it is that I am and why I'm here and all of these. But the truth of that is that your past does not make you who you are. The path provides doorways for you to travel through so that you can return to the truth of who you are, which you have been and have known all along. Now, let me tie these two things together, because I think I kind of, jumped a few rungs on the ladder there. So we, as spiritual beings integrated in these physical bodies, we come in as pure spirits. And we come in knowing the truth of who we are. We know our connection to Source. We know why we're here. I'll tell you a little story real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, tell me.
I worked with this little girl that is a few years ago now, and she was 6.5 years old, and incredible little girl. She remembered being in the womb, and she was telling her mom what it was like in the womb. And she said, what I really liked about being in the womb is that you can go back and ask questions. Like if you get scared, you can go back. And her mom said, really? Well, you got scared? What happened? And she says, well, Mom, you get to see everything. Really? She says, yes, and they show you a movie of your whole life before you come here. And Mom says, really? And it's scary? Well, if you don't like it, can you change it? And she says, no, Mom, it's not like that. You see, God has everything all worked out. And you have to come here because it's like going to school. You have to learn lessons. And you can't change that. And Mom says, really? Well, do you remember the movie? And she says, no, Mom. That would be like going on a treasure hunt when you already know the treasure. That would be like going on a treasure hunt when you already know the treasure from the mouth of a 6-year-old. Is that not the most profound thing you've ever heard, Tammy?
That is extremely profound, and it makes so much sense because, sometimes I have little remembrances when I was little, and I used to tell my mother very interesting things. And of course, I don't remember everything. Excuse me. But I do think that we do remember, and then as time goes on, like you said, we have all these different patterns that happen, and it's really interesting because I'm thinking about I guess the whys, because we come in, like you said, in pure spirit, and we're ready to go. And like that little girl, obviously, she had a very deep connection and was able to articulate what many of us can't. So what is it that we can do to start to heal both the, I guess, like you said, your physical connection and that spiritual connection, to start this breakthrough? As like you said, you were pretty young, really, when I think about you were in at college level, and you were able to make these connections. what about those of us who, maybe we're a little bit older and we're still struggling with, maybe the digestive issues or we're starting to realize that our diet over, the years haven't been good, and we're experiencing some of these different things. Do you have some suggestions on maybe how we can get reconnected?
Yeah, sure. So, let me just say that my journey, actually, it sounded really quick there, and it wasn't.
Yes.
Once I found the solution, then the healing was quick. And then, once moving on to the spiritual journey, that's been 20 years of studying with a teacher and really immersing myself into the world of spiritual healing and the concepts. And one of the things I want to say about, I think it's most probably the foundation of it is understanding the human spirit journey and the nature of it. As we said, and as the little girl confirmed there, we do come in as pure spirits knowing. And as a collective, our human collective, we agreed to come into these physical forms with what we call free will. And in order to exercise free will, because the truth of our existence and that connection that we know is so exquisite, it is a state of being that is unconditional love, divine light, and compassion. And who would want to leave that, honestly? So we have to forget that connection in order to use this thing we call free will and play out this whole journey of trial and error and what we call mistakes and learning and all of these things so that we can have an evolution for our souls while we're here on this earth plane. And so if I can just say a little word about how that happens and how messages get integrated into the body, then that really gives you kind of a foundation for beginning to listen to the body and understand how the messages are stored in the body so that you can use those then to realign and reconnect with your innermost truth of your existence, that core spirit that is the truth of who you are and knows its full connection. So as we come into these bodies and we're going through, we're born into this physical world, we pass through that birth canal or however it is that you make your way out of of your mother's womb, and that umbilical cord is cut. Suddenly you are a seemingly separate being who is totally dependent. You remember your connection and your truth and your purity and your beauty. You know what it's like to look at a newborn baby, and it's just exquisite. It is like reconnecting with God in that moment. And then yet as
we are experiencing technical difficulties. You may not hear everyone on the call. You will be prompted when the conference is reconnected.
Tammy, did you hear that?
Yeah, it's odd because we're both still here and the record button is still on. Let me see. It says that you're not on the call, and I guess they're reconnecting.
Okay.
So I don't really know what to say other than it said that we'll be prompted when it's reconnected. So I guess we'll pause just for a couple moments. And worst case scenario is that we can both call back in and pick up where we left off, and then I'll send this to the editor to put it back together for the show part.
This conference has been reconnected.
Okay. I'll pick up with coming through the birth canal and having the umbilical cord cut.
Okay.
Making a note for myself there so that I remember.
Debra?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, still here. Well, should we... I guess,
Yeah.
can you tell if it's still recording?
It says it's recording now. So tell me more about the reconnection of how we start out in when we're born. You were talking about the mother's womb and how when we come into the world, what it's like.
Okay, so we come through. We pass from the mother's womb into this 3D material world, and that umbilical cord is cut, and then we are seemingly separate beings who are very dependent, yet totally connected. You know what it's like to look at a newborn baby, and it's like connecting with God in that moment, this beautiful, pure being. And yet we've got, at that point, we're very dependent beings. We start to observe the world through our human senses. It's like that perception of the child is still very broad and very, we have the spiritual connection, and yet we begin to forget that and to observe the world through human eyes and through human senses and human perceptions from the physical body. And there is a core spirit that stays intact, like an internal compass that knows that connection always, knows what love is, knows what safety is, knows what truth is, and that stays intact in every being. And as we develop and mature and grow in physical bodies, we're being bombarded with messages and information from so many different ways. And we're in the care of people who care for us for the most part, care for us and totally mean well and want to give us everything in order to support us on these journeys. But the truth is they forgot longer ago than what we did, right? That's why we can say these children say these beautiful things and we just think, oh, how cute. But really, they are so connected. But we're observing the world through our human perceptions and human senses. And everything that we see, we're comparing from that internal compass, that internal knowing. Is this love? Is this safe? Is this true? Where do I fit in this? Where's the connection in this? And when we experience something that does feel connected to love and safety and truth, and our hearts will expand and we feel expansion, we feel good. If we experience something that does not resonate with that place of knowing of love inside, the hearts contract and we feel what's called an emotion, a negative emotion. Now, this is point number one I want to say about that is that emotions are not bad. They don't make you wrong. They don't make you weak. They don't make you any of that stuff. Emotions give you information about whether something on your journey is taking you closer to love or farther from love. And that's information that your being needs. And we're taught that emotions are dangerous and bad and make you weak and all these kind of things, and it can get you out of control and get you into trouble. And you're not supposed to have them, and you're not supposed to be emotional. So we try to shut them down. We try to stifle them. But then eventually that becomes like a wave that rolls onto the shore, and then we'll eventually subside back into the ocean. If we allow our emotions to flow, they're very wave-like and rhythmic in motion, right? And they can, have their full movement and expression in a healthy way, and they can subside back be drawn back into the depths of the ocean, which is infinite, where, there's a purification there that happens. But when we try to stop them and stifle them, that's when they can become dangerous, because eventually they can topple us over and kind of take us out in a way, right? But emotions in and of themselves give us information that's very important. However, when we shove them down, the body is constantly being imprinted with information. We feel an uncomfortable emotion. We shove that down. And the gut typically is what's taking in all of this information. The body stores information in the organs, in the connective tissues, in all of this. So your gut has an innate wisdom that knows how to actually take care of your body, manage your body, your physical system. You have gut instinct that tells you, survival things, how to survive. And then you have all of this imprinting messaging that gets imprinted on top of it, and you have all of this emotional stuff that gets shoved down and stored in the gut, a lot of it in the gut. And so these messages get all jumbled up and confused. And the mind actually then becomes your savior and says, all right, we're going to shove all that down where we don't have to feel it, but here's what we're going to do. Next time something comes up that triggers any of this information, we're going to implement this coping strategy or this defense mechanism, or we're going to put this story to it and put these reasons and rationalization on top of it. So here's how we're going to survive on this journey. And this is how we develop our often not so healthy coping strategies and defense mechanisms that later become our problems in life. And, those work for us for a while. And, we actually can get by pretty good with these things for a while, whether it's, your relationship with food or with people, with relationships or with money or, whatever it is. We get by with them for a while until something starts to wake up inside of us that says, this just isn't working, or we start to get sick, or, something happens and we say, all right, we got to make some changes in our lives. And when you do that, that spark of knowing inside, that inner compass, starts to sizzle, and starts to get brighter and starts to call your attention. So that's actually the waking up period, where then you start to recognize, all right, all of these things that I've been living all this time, maybe they're not so true, but those things become doorways for you to travel back through to return to that place of truth that you knew all along.
Let's see. So when you work with people, how would you work with people to make some of these discoveries?
Yeah, good question. So I teach a 7-step process to help people to recognize what these coping strategies that you've developed. Say if you decide, all right, I've had this pattern of emotional eating, let's say. That's a big one. It's a big one. So many of us eat to feed an emotional state, or we avoid food because of an emotional state, or, there's so much that where our emotions affect our eating habits and our self-care habits more than our bodies and keep us from really understanding our body's needs. So say there is a pattern that you decide that you want to shift in your life, or you want to release altogether. Then I help you to, number one, increase and heighten your awareness of that, and then learn where these messages in your body are coming from and how to discern those messages. And then what's key is to learn to be present and accept your emotions, your feeling. Because, as I said, that place of feeling is where your heart is either expanding or contracting based on whether what you're experiencing is taking you closer to love or farther from love. So accepting that and letting yourself be with the discomfort of your feelings, your emotions, will so often disarm the subconscious patterning. And it's like you're giving yourself permission to just be with what is and what's happening in your own heart. And you no longer have to rely on those rebound patterns that take you away from the discomfort and into survival mode. So that's like the first 3 steps of the process right there. And then once you can be present with your feelings, you can begin to like relax into, okay, what is it what's the need underneath the feeling? Underneath there are basic needs that the body and the heart have, and underneath every one of those needs, if we're traveling back through the heart, because that heart is the portal to that core truth of your being. So traveling back through the heart, when you look at what it is that your heart is needing, underneath that is a place that yearns to consciously return to your spiritual connection. That treasure hunt that you're on, there is an innate yearning inside of you that yearns to find that treasure it's guiding you on this treasure hunt the whole time. And within that state of yearning is the part of you that already knows. And so by traveling this pathway back through your heart, you can return to that place in you that already knows, and on a conscious way. You've never been separate from it, never. But in a conscious way, you can begin to reconnect with it, and it's like once you do, it unravels all that stuff that's been sitting on top of it all this time, waiting for you to travel back through to get back home. And you can begin to then, in a conscious way, let this knowing, once you reconnect, let this knowing then start to permeate throughout your consciousness, and you can begin to live from this state of knowing in your daily life. And it takes you out of those patterns and helps you begin to live more and more in your truth.
Oh, we're on a big journey, aren't we? When you talk about
yes.
the treasure hunt, I keep on visualizing that about how, we saw the movie and then, of course, we forget. And then, of course, it's so exciting as we, like you said, as we find our truth, as we journey through and open up and say, oh, okay, I'm on the path. That's very exciting. Obviously, our conversation, what you're talking about is extremely deep, and it is something that is not going to happen overnight. If people want to find out more about you and how to work with you, where can they go?
The best place is my website, JoyfullyLivingWellness.com. I have a free gift there that people can use to get started. And is it okay to share that part?
Yes.
Okay. There's a free gift. It's called The 10 Foundational Principles of Our Human Existence. Actually, the 10 Spiritual Principles of Our Human Existence. And it's just a one sheet. It's a one sheet there that has just the 10 principles of the truth of who you are. And it's something you can paste up on your mirror, your refrigerator, your dashboard, store it in your purse, whatever, where just to help you to remember the truth of who you are and what this journey is really about. Keeping that awareness in front of you. We're bombarded, as we said, with so much information, so much misinformation all the time. You're not your past. Your emotions are not bad. Your mind is not going to get you unstuck from your patterns. The truth is through your heart. And the more that you can keep in front of you the truth of your existence and these key principles that help you to remember the truth of who you are, then it's like we need all the positive reinforcement we can get. Because there's so much misinformation and so much negative information bombarding us 24/7. If you can put this sheet up everywhere and read it periodically so that when you see it, it reminds you of your truth. And it will continue to stimulate the part in you that knows and wake that up and let that shine brighter and brighter than all of this negative information that you're taking on. Then this can help you to return and find that treasure hunt that much faster.
Wow. And so you can get I actually downloaded it, and it's a beautiful one sheet, 10 foundational principles of spiritual healing. And number 10 is really beautiful. The ocean of love contains all. Nothing exists except within the larger container of love. That is absolutely beautiful. Can you expand on that a little bit before I let you go?
Sure. Yes. What that is saying is that, we are all energy. We are all energy, and we are all in the larger macrocosm of things. We are one breath of divine life force energy manifest into this world that seems so tangible and so finite to us. And each one of us is here as a reflection of divine light. It's like we're reflecting divine light into this world. We are channels or conduits through which divine expression can move and express itself on this planet Earth. And none of us is separate. None of us is really individual, yet each of us is special and very necessary and needed here. There is a Sufi poem by the poet Rumi that says, "You're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in a drop." Each one of us contains all of that divine wisdom and that divine knowledge through each of our beings. And we're each here to express a different nuance or expression of it, to manifest that light in a different way. And it's like if you imagine a drop of the ocean trying to hold itself as separate from the ocean. There is no separation between the ocean and the drop, and yet every drop is necessary to be here to form this ocean, to give the ocean its fullness and its full expression. So that is, I think, the best analogy of this ocean. We think that we breathe this air and that and that there's a separation even between the air and the ocean, but everything is one expression of one divine breath.
The ocean of love contains all. That is such a profound thought, and I think it does sum up exactly what your entire philosophy and what you're teaching is. Any last comment?
I would say that whatever is happening in your life or in your heart, be present with it, and don't stop with the outer manifestation of it, with the outside pictures and stories of what's happening. Because within everything, there's a Sufi saying that says that everything in your life is for you and it's from you, but it's not about you. And so that means it is for you to learn about whatever it is you need for this journey. It is from you in that there is some reflection that it is showing you about some truth that is inside of you. And I don't mean the ugly truth that says, oh, you're a bad person. I mean the deepest inner truth that's inside of that says, here's the way home. But it's not about you, in that it's not what makes you who you are. It's not about you. It's not that it makes you bad, or it makes you good, or it makes you special, or it makes you, unworthy. None of that is true. Because what you truly are is an essence of divine light and unconditional love. You are a reflection of light and a manifestation of unconditional love, an expression of love, and a manifestation of beauty. This is the truth of who and what you are, and this is because this is the divine plan for existence. This is what manifests through you, and nothing else is truth. So don't stop with any of that outside stuff. Let it carry you deeper and deeper and deeper through the layers of your being until you find that place that is truly calling you home.
Thank you so much, Debra, for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tammy. This has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tammy Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.